You real quick. I am on my break. Just picked up some food for wifey, and I'm headed back home. But just wanted to holler at you for a minute, and hopefully everybody has calmed down and breathed. Took a little bit of relaxation um, after that horrible, horrible game in against the Chargers. But that's the way things go, and we are already moving on to the Raiders. We got to take care of business there. Let us not forget. We're still the better team than the Raiders. I don't bet, so I don't get into the over under and all of that kind of stuff. But last I heard, we were like favored by 11 points or something like that. I don't know what all of that stuff means. I'll keep my money in my pocket, but Vegas seems to think we're still the better team and gonna come out of this stuff. I seem to think that because they still got to get out there and practice, they still got to watch film of what they did, and they still got to come to grips with that nastiness that we put on the field the other day. Now, here's the one point that I mentioned on my live after the game. After that horrible, 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 horrible game, after the 5 turnovers by Jalen Hurts, the 2 drops by A.J. Brown, the falling down by Devontae Smith, the phantom calls on Jordan Mailata, after all of that, still should have won that game. So for me, that is the silver lining in everything. We still should have won that game. Now, every week, it starts all over again. You got to get out there. You got to watch the film. I don't know how much film they watched from that last game. But you got to look at the situation going forward. Matchup, man to man. How do you look across the line against the Raiders? We still should come out on top. We should. We should have came out on top against the Chargers, but you see how that worked. So we've been using, or at least let me rephrase that. I have been using the term player execution failure, because to me that's what it is. As a player that's been in the locker room, I know what it means when you got to go out there and practice and do all of that stuff every day. They don't beat themselves up like we used to do. And when you got the season going, we didn't hit that much. We put our shoulder pads and shorts on most of the time, and you thud. We used to call it thud. It wasn't. There was helmets. There was helmets only. So that was basically 2-hand touch. Then there was thud, which is shoulder pads and shorts, and you come through the hole, they give you a little pop with the shoulder pads, and that was it. And then there was full go. So back when I played, we had 3 levels to it. They don't do that no more. Everybody's always rested. They're keeping everybody off their feet as much as possible. So when you're going through the rigmarole of practice every week, that is strictly mental reps. That's strictly mental reps. Mental reps has nothing to do with the ball being in the air and you not coming down with the catch. That's not mental reps. That's muscle memory. So I don't understand why this time A.J. Brown drops the ball twice. The offense line is still not good. I don't know why they can't hold blocks. They get to the blocks and can't hold them. Sometimes Fred Johnson and Tyler Steen look serviceable. Other times it looks like a train wreck out there. Now I'm gonna get my video out tonight. Hopefully I can get it done before me and Tone go on tonight at 7:30. But I got to look at the offense. To me, the offensive line is still the crux of the issues that we have. We got Saquon Barkley going, but you'll notice every time they tried to run inside the tackles, they shut it down. When Saquon could bounce outside the tackles, that's when he was doing damage. I don't understand why they can't see that. I don't understand why they can't see it, sight adjust, and just add to whatever it is that you're doing. Go with what works. It's not that complicated. And to me, that is the failure of whatever it is the coaches are trying to do. That's the failure on the coaching. You got to be able to adjust and change your game plan because you see something is working and you run it until they stop it. Very similar to what Chicago did to us. They had them cutback lanes on point and we couldn't stop it. And you know what? They didn't stop running it. And you see what happened. I don't understand why we can't employ that same philosophy. Again, not complicated. You ain't got to change your whole game plan. You go through what you're doing. That's usually what you do during the game. I have no doubt that they put in the work in the film session to figure out what plays they have that should work the best against whoever their competition is, whoever their opponent is. But when you are in a game situation, when you're in the mix, you automatically, well, not automatically, but your job as a coach is to see what's working and what isn't. And you stick with what works and you get rid of what isn't. Now, what happens is the coach's ego gets involved and they don't want to change up. They don't want to change up anything because they've invested so much time into thinking that this works. So they don't want to change it up with the expectation that maybe one play will pop and then all of that time will be worth it. So a lot of times, in my opinion, it's an ego thing. They doing it because they think their way is the best. They did the homework, they did the research, and that's what they want to stick with. Because, and I understand this concept, that if you change from it, the first thing somebody will say is, why you get away from what you were doing? You spent all of that time trying to formulate that plan. Why you change it up? So there's a little bit of a back and forth because what you plan for and what you study for might eventually pop. It just hasn't yet. If you abandon it, you'll never know. So it's one of those woulda, coulda, shouldas. But right now, the offensive line looked a little bit better blocking. Not a lot, because a lot of that was on Saquon bouncing it to the outside. So we'll see what they employ this week against the Raiders. We should still be the better team, but we've been saying that a lot. We should be doing a lot of things that we're not doing. So it is what it is. There's no more, ducking and dodging the criticism. Jalen Hurts going to catch strays all week. Nick Sirianni catching strays all week. Kevin Patullo been catching strays. That ain't changing. But there was a lot from the game plan that looked a little bit better, and we got to execute better. I said it before, I'll say it again. You can take a weak game plan, and if you execute it, you can still find success. That's on the players on the field. I agree with Big Brother Seth. Ultimately, it's on the players. That's just like I say, even in basketball. Coaches don't set picks. Coaches don't drain threes. Coaches don't take charges. None of that. It's the same thing with football. Coaches don't block. Coaches don't throw passes. Coaches don't read coverages. Everything on the field is done by those players on the field. Point, period, in the paragraph. And those guys have to execute and be ready to go. That's about as far as you can go with it. They got to figure it out. We had opportunities. The defense gave us opportunities to take that game back, and we couldn't take advantage of it. That's on the offense. That's on Jalen Hurts. That's on Jalen Hurts. So, as I pull back up to the crib and about to go enjoy my food, we will talk about this later on tonight with me and Tone at 7:30 on the Bald Eagles podcast. But never forget, man, the players on the field got to get it done. We got enough. You got enough to go around with Kevin Patullo. His play calling has not been stellar. However, we have had enough good plays. We have had enough plays that should have been scoring opportunities that we as the Eagles did not take advantage of. And that ain't on Kevin Patullo. Now, We can bitch, moan, and complain about some of the plays and some of the screens he called and some of that stuff. That's fair criticism, and everybody's going to get that. I don't care who you are. Every coach is going to call the wrong play. Why you think you have picks and stuff like that? Because I even saw, and I pointed out on film, there's a couple plays where the Chargers knew exactly what we were running. They knew by the formation. They knew by the motion. They knew exactly what we were running, and they made us pay for it. That is a coaching issue. That means we are predictable. But there's enough times that we can put the ball in the end zone that kind of balances that out. So again, no, I'm not crazy about what Kevin Patullo does and how he calls his game. However, it's been good enough to win games. The players on the field just haven't executed enough to make it happen. That is what's got to change. We got 4 weeks to do it, y'all. We got 4 weeks to do it. So I'm back home. I'm hungry. I'm going to finish this food and get something to eat. But I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I'll see y'all later on the night at 7:30 with me and Tony. And I will holla at y'all later. Appreciate y'all in the chat. I can't look at it because I was driving. But I got my faithfuls in there, Ty Baby. I see Tiff. I see Carlos. I see everybody, man. Everybody on my squad. You know I love you. I appreciate you. And I will holla at y'all later on the night. Peace. Now, how do I stop this thing on my phone?